AusArmour 2025 has been and gone. Now to start looking at the casualty list. First casualty of the event has got to be my sensible sun hat, which as you can see is pretty flogged. So time to retire it, I reckon. Let's start with some of the smaller ones. M8, I've got to just recheck to make sure that the repair that I did on the rotor button for the distributor cap is good, and also to fit a clutch pedal travel limiter so that we don't have a repeat of the bent clutch system components half track. So it's time for a full tune up and check over the engine. Plus we've also shed some rubber from the road wheels on the tracks. Yeah, so there's two different road wheels need rubber replaced on that. We'll give all of the brakes and everything a check over on the back of it as well too, to make sure it's reliable. The Jackson developed some starting issues. It's got new batteries, but the starter would crank over really slowly, so there's either some sort of wiring problem or the starter motor itself is bad on it. It's also managed to spring a bit of a diesel fuel leak. Surprise, surprise. The Grant's pretty good. It performed well, just needs a bit of a check over. You can see that there's a few end connectors that probably need to be tightened up. M5 Stewart, another one that needs a full service and check over, and also to see if we can get the synchronisation of the twin 350 Chev small block engines in the back working a bit better, because one of the engines is producing 30% of the power that it should be. The Soviet section. T-34-85, continue monitoring engine noise, recheck track tension, and also do another adjustment of the steering brakes. T-34-76, a bit more of a work list on this one. When I adjusted the track, I don't think I secured the idler correctly because it slipped. You see how loose the track is, and while I was driving it, had some big issues when turning left. The guide horns would bind up on the drive gear at the back and it would jerk the thing around, so more work to do on track tension, fine-tuning steering. There's a fuel leak from the priming pump inside the hull. And it's actually pretty leak-free. Amazing. ISU 152 went really well. It was a ton of fun to drive, ton of fun. It's just such a big thing that clanks and bangs around the place. Just give it a good check over, check all the track pins, do a little bit more fine tuning of the steering because it's still just a little bit unpredictable turning to the right. You sort of got to go hunting a little bit for the right spot for it to do its turn, but otherwise really good. The SU100 is on the resus list as well, and see if we can get that running. So then I would have 3 vehicles with the T-34 drivetrain running around. Time to learn how to work on these air-cooled radial engines. Ram Kangaroo went well, and as usual sounds absolutely grouse. It's time to give this thing a good check over and tune up. Both the left and right magnetos are a bit weak. When you do a mag check when you're running the engine up, the engine RPM drops by about 300-350 revs, which is way out of spec. It should only be about 80 RPM drop per side if the mags are set correctly. So I'm thinking they just need to be timed up and the points cleaned and adjusted and that sort of thing. Cromwell, keep an eye on the hydraulics of it. They can be a little bit troublesome to keep going. Even the World War II experience with these things was that the hydraulics for the clutch and the steering needed a little bit of attention in terms of keeping them bled and free of air. It's also got a slow wind over on the starter, so we'll be checking the starter motor to make sure that electrically and mechanically that's okay, and also looking at all of the battery cables and system, master switch, all those things like that. So that's a few jobs to do on that one. Little 38T went well. We're going to have a go at remounting the driver's seat because it takes quite a bit of effort to hit the gear change pedal, but apart from that, it went pretty well. A Panzer IV, it's got an oil leak from the oil filter system. Yeah, so you can see a few drips off of that, so we want to attend to that to make sure it's okay. I think I'll probably continue fiddling around with the tune a little bit and adjusting the float level on the carburetors to see if we can get it to run a little bit cleaner. Otherwise, it steered and turned pretty well. Little Kettenkrad, it needs quite a significant amount of work. It's shed some rubber from one of the road wheels. The brake shoes for the steering brakes have to be realigned. And in order to do those steering brake shoes, we have to lift out the engine and the transmission, so no choice with that. I want to put a new throttle cable on it because this one's pretty flogged. Just a general clean up. It's a bit sort of how's your father when it comes to wiring and things like that, so it's a good opportunity when the engine is out to clean up and tidy all of this stuff. Panzer IV, just an engine tune check over, check the charging rate of the charging system and just give it a good look over. Panzer IV is going to get a bit of significant body work done on the superstructure by Jesse in the coming weeks, which is good because it will give access to the back of the vehicle to take a real good look at the cooling system and engine and the clutch as well too. It's time for a good check over on this. Track pin is broken inside here and it's just fallen out, so we're quite fortunate with that, but we didn't break a track during AusArmourfest. Stug 4, same sort of thing. Service and check over the vehicle, check clutch adjustment, and it's got this weird electrical fault where the engine doesn't like to turn off unless you fiddle around with some of the switches in it, so we need to see what's going on with that. Hetzer went pretty well. One of the twins was driving with this and he was saying that the gear change pedal needs a lot of effort to change it, so it might be easier for me to get them to do a bit of gym work before they drive it next, rather than having to get in there and take all the gun apart and adjust the transmission. So we'll see about that. A few little jobs on the flak to do. Most important one is that the fuel line looks like it's got a bit of a compatibility problem with the fuel that we have here, so the rubber parts of the fuel line have perished and starting to get a bit ropey, so time to replace that before we get a leak and potentially a fire. OT810 went well. I do really want to tension the tracks because we're looking at it as it was running around on the weekend and the tracks were flapping around quite a bit, so I think it's time to actually tension them and get them sorted out. The Steyr, I've got a few little jobs to do on fuel lines to make sure they're okay, but the big job for this is to repair and replace the bearings in the engine cooling fan system because they're really starting to scream out. The Zundapp, I think it's time to give it a full check over, grease everything up, tune the engine up, check the carburetor, make sure it's all clean. See if I can find a replacement for the engine ignition switch or do a better job of hiding this because it was sort of a bit of a last minute thing. And also the throttle cable on this thing too is pretty flogged as well. Now the Panther. Well, we've got a bit of a list for the Panther. Clutch pedal, for some reason, if it's been let to sit for more than 4 or 5 days, it seizes up, so it's basically solid and you need to use an inhuman amount of strength to push the pedal down and then have something to pull it back up again and work it backwards and forwards to free it up. Once it frees up, it actually works pretty well, so there's something wrong with the mechanism. It's going to take a bit of contortion work to get in there to sort that out and put some lubricant or something in there. We've also got a couple of pieces of track that have broken guide horns. We weren't able to find the source of a high tension ignition problem on the right hand bank, so I've got new plug leads and stuff on order for it to put that in and hopefully fix that up. The engine's also got quite a significant air leak from the intake manifold. To do that, it's almost an engine out job, which is a little bit nightmarish. And then the last thing is that the pull mechanism for the inertia starter has decided to seize up on it as well too. Yes, quite a bit of work on that. Schwimmwagen went well. It got stuck at one particular point with a flat battery, so I need to work out what's happening with the charging system. Stug 3G went really well, no issues with that, so just a bit of a check over to make sure nothing's come loose and everything's all settled in. Kübelwagen started to drag one of its front wheels because the brake drums are a bit out of round and the brakes were starting to stick on. Something wrong with the brake lines or the steel cables, which is preventing us from adjusting it properly, so I've got a few things to do on that. T-55, I want to have a bit more of a go at the right-hand steering because you sort of still have to go hunting for it a little bit to find the right spot to get it to turn, but otherwise it went really well, so I don't want to mess it up. Walker Bulldog went pretty well. We did have a case where it was really hard to start after it was stopped to be refueled, so probably some sort of a fuel vaporization problem because it had been working pretty hard and got all heat soaked, and then it just didn't want to start. Took quite a bit of effort to get it going. The M48 performed really well. It looked great and it sounded fantastic out on the field. It's got some weird marks with the exhaust soot, especially inside, so I'm thinking that the baffles for the air cooling system may have an issue with its sealing or the way it's installed, and it could be recirculating exhaust gas inside the engine compartment. T-72 performed really well, no issues with that, so just another case of checking it, making sure everything's all dialed in, giving all the road wheels a service and return rollers and things like that a good grease and check over. Gepard performed really well. I want to recheck all of the filters and system to see if there's any residue left in it, because it actually, right at the end, just as we were getting ready to put it back in, it sort of started to give potentially a few fuel related issues to it, so I'll check that, but otherwise it ran really well. Leopard 1, not too much to say on this, ran great. People love riding in it. So again, another case of just checking it over and making sure all is okay. Same thing with the Panzer 68, no issues with this. I've got to replace the oil filters and do a bit of an oil service on it. Apart from that, not too much of an issue. Our BMP went really well. Not much to do on this except a full check over, but I do want to service the road wheels, check all the oil levels and greasing of the return rollers and track tension and stuff like that. Saladin's got quite a few age-related issues. It's got a significant oil leak in the hydraulic system, which does both the brakes and the power steering. Probably the most critical issue with it is that the drive shafts have these large rubber boots which seal all the oil in. It's just biodegraded away to nothing. I was playing around in there having a look at it, and I was able to stick my thumb through one of them, which means all of the oil in that final drive just leaks out. And to replace these boots is a just massive job. Wheels off, torsion bars out, control arms out. We've got to think about time priority with this one. Maybe we can just sort of patch it up and keep it running the way it is, or it may actually be time to turn it into a static only one. Sabre, bit of a check over, eyeball if there's any serious oil leaks. It was also running on 5 cylinders, I noticed when it was going past, which, seeing as though it's got a Jaguar petrol engine in it, I guess 5 cylinders is pretty good actually. Spartan ran well. General check over, make sure everything's all okay and dialed in for next year. Fox also ran pretty well. It's due for a full check over, cooling system check, engine tune up, carburetor check, fuel system, greasing, all of that stuff. It did develop a bit of a squeaking noise from the front wheel, which could either be a friction lining which is low and it's starting to go metal to metal, or that there's maybe a deeper problem with a wheel bearing or something like that. Whatever it is, that's going to need a bit more attention. The bat ran really well. It's not leaking too much oil, which is fantastic. Just to check over again, service the road wheels, all of that stuff. Tiny Teddy developed an oil leak from the oil filter housing, and in the process of repairing that, we actually noticed that there's another main oil feed pipe which goes underneath the engine that's starting to get pretty ropey. Also want to give the engine a bit of a tune-up. As you recall, we had a blower drive break on this, and I think the blower drive is probably broken because the engine tune and the idle's not set properly, because sometimes when you start it up, it's spitting back through the blower, which from what I can tell reading about it is an issue with tuning and idle speed on these 2-stroke Detroits. M110 went really well, turned itself into a bit of an oil leaker, and we've still got an ongoing issue with diesel fuel contamination into the engine as well too, so I've really got to get onto that because we keep putting that off. It's got this odd sort of twin fuel tank set up which was having issue drawing fuel from one side to the other, so I think it's time to simplify that and just put a single fuel tank there so we can make the driver's life a bit easier. I think I've actually got to the end of the long laundry list of things to do. And that's in addition to the normal sort of workshop shenanigans that we will be obviously doing throughout the year before next year's AusArmourfest. And also I've got the Centurion and the Chieftain and the M47 to reanimate. Never a dull day at AusArmour.